Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Scholastic Sit Down. Episode number 11 is here with the same two you've seen as usual. Dylan Ward's beside me. My name is Luke Jordan. Before we dive into the thick of things immediately, Dylan, how we doing?
Luke, doing pretty good. Looking forward to an exciting weekend of the SHL Showcase in its third year, which we'll get to a little bit later in the pod. But overall, just, it seems like I've got hockey related things almost every day between what I do in high school hockey and my team up in the NA3HL, but, living the dream.
So, we'll do the usual today. We will recap scores from the past week, and then we'll actually get a chance to talk to our first Stevenson representative of this season. Goaltender and junior Asher Ollie will be joining us as a special guest. We'll do our outside the SHL. We'll look at our schedule. We posted a poll on Instagram to see who had any questions, and we'll answer them if, of course, permittable. And yeah, so without further ado, before we go down the rest of the line. Let's start from the top and let's go at some of the scores from this past week. You can always see them on the SHL Network Instagram, but we go into much deeper dives here. So we're glad you're here. Starting back on Wednesday, November 12th, we had another two-game Wednesday. We've had it a lot lately. Usually GBS and GBN are the ones hosting. It's different this time around. New Trier hosted Stevenson. Lake Forest held GBS at the Alumni Memorial Fieldhouse for that season series finale, should I say. And that Lake Forest game, one where they come away with it after being down. A really impressive comeback after two power play goals in the first period from GBS. Lake Forest was able to tie up the game in the second from Grady Strothman and Nate Robbins, and then Tommy Esplin, who came from the Chicago Reapers AAA team, gets the game winner. 6:54 left in the third period on the power play, and Logan Marsh with yet another 900 save percentage plus performance, stopping 31 out of 34. He's just simply been the anchor, Dylan.
Yeah, and Lake Forest, they've been a bit of an inconsistent team over the last, say a month or so, but this is a big win over GBS. It takes the season series, and this is the second time this year that Lake Forest comes back from down 2-0 against Glenbrook South and wins by a final score of 3-2. The last time they did it, it was in overtime, but this time in regulation. And what looked to be a GBS dominated game in the first period with those two power play goals. Lake Forest didn't give up, and they find themselves not only with 2 points, but no points for their opponent in GBS, winning in regulation.
So we go to the next one. New Trier was hosting Stevenson at Centennial Ice Rink. It's a 9:20 p.m. start, a late one down in the North Shore, but man, New Trier did not care how late it was. They were wide awake that entire game. 36 shots on goal to Stevenson's 9. They win this one 3-1. Not exactly landside. A good fight from Ethan Weiner in the net for the Patriots. Jack Herstrid sticking out in this game, and forgive me for saying this in advance, but he scored goals number 6 and 7 on the SHL season.
I want to cut to your face after Sam did
Oh,
that
goodness.
earlier this season, but you talk about a confidence booster for Stevenson in spite of a loss. They lost 6-0 to New Trier earlier this season. They've been having a pretty tough year. They were right in this one until the very end. It was a one goal lead for New Trier heading into the third period, and Stevenson, you just wonder what the vibes were like in that locker room. Maybe we could do this. Maybe we could do this. And Nutria does end up taking it by a final score of 3-1. But still, I mean, it's not that usual, New Trier versus a team lower in the standings and just complete dominance running clock. I mean, this is a close game, but New Trier does get it done.
And then we go to two defensive powerhouses on Friday, November 14th. Friday night at Addison, as it usually is, especially here in the fall. The Dukes host the Loyola Ramblers in what was a highly anticipated matchup. Of course, you got the sensational goalie matchups, but Charlie Trapp did not go. It was actually Charlie Niego who goes for the Ramblers. Levi Brown, of course, for the Dukes, who has earned his way into that starting position. Niego considered the number two, but boy, did he play like a number one and beyond in this one. He stops 28 out of 29. Loyola gets the starter and the finisher, Anthony Perotti in between, but Luke Jobert And Jack Blazejowski eventually with the game winner with 139 to go in the third period on the man advantage. Loyola escapes a low scoring one by 1 goal, 2-1, and just as many goals as we would expect between these two dominant defenses, Dylan.
Yeah, Luke, you gotta love a game-winning goal with under 2 minutes to go, especially on the power play as well. A goal in each period, and I hate to sound like I'm repeating you, but Charlie Niego, I mean, he gets the call for this game. York, one of the best teams in the state, if not the best right now.
Yeah.
And I mean, wow, 28 saves on 29 shots against. And for Loyola, this is a huge, I'm going to go ahead and say turning point in the season. They take down a York team in regulation that has been really hard to beat. This was only York's second regulation loss on the season at this point, and you know, big win for Loyola. Excuse me, correction, their third regulation loss, but either way.
We would go into Saturday with 3 games. I'll announce the scores, give a quick note, and then leave it to Dylan to break things down. Starting here with the earliest one, the late afternoon at Glacier Ice Arena, Carmel hosting New Trier. A closer one than usual, but still plenty of goals to be found from both sides this time, as it was actually Carmel who was in front after the first period, 3-2, but in the end, through the second and third, New Trier outscores them 4-1. Final score 6-4, 10 total goals there. Going over to the next one, GBN and St. Viator, a rematch of the SHL semifinals last year. And although Sullivan Lyons is able to get on the board for GBN, who of course is related to Logan Lyons, it was St. Viator with just simply more, a 4 goal third period to propel them ahead for a 5-1 victory. Last game, the late night, it was York on the road at Stevenson. They take care of business with numerous different goal scorers, 7 actually. Nobody had 2 in that game. It was Nix, Brown, Barton, Spano, Moore, Hayes, and Fafinski. For 7 total goals, the Dukes down the Patriots 7-2. Dylan, what sticks out to you on this Saturday?
Well, first of all, this New Trier Carmel game, you said it would be the highest scoring game. 10 goals actually didn't do it this week. We'll get to
Yeah,
that
usually
later.
it does. That's what
Yeah.
frustrates me, but we'll get into that for the next day.
But I mean, Carmel, so close to pulling off a wild upset here. They had a 4-2 lead, as you mentioned, Luke, in this one before New Trier storms back with 4 unanswered goals to win 6-4. Big win for New Trier as they prove that they can come back again. And, I don't care if it's the number one team versus the number 10 team in the standings. Every SHL game is competitive to a certain degree. And this game shows exactly why. As for St. Viator, GBN has been struggling this season. They dominate, outshoot them 35-14. Ryan Loftus gets another 2 goals as he keeps climbing his way on the SHL leaderboard in points. And as for the York Dukes against Stevenson, uh, it's another example of, Stevenson kind of having a tough year so far and York being red hot. Stevenson does rattle off 28 shots against this York defense, but York on the other side had 42. 7 of those went into the net as York, built up a 3-0 lead for the first through the first 2 periods, and then just an explosion of goals in the third, 6 total. York outscoring Stevenson 4-2.
Yeah, and you know what? I give these quote unquote underdogs in these games this week a lot of credit because I think I mentioned last week it wasn't our most exciting slate of games because you kind of felt like some of them could be lopsided just from past scores, and that did not happen. I mean, these teams that were, just smaller down in the standings were able to size up and play some really good games. There's plenty of them down this line. And even if they did end up a little bit apart at the end, through the first 2 periods, they were usually really tight. So I don't really think it's the top teams playing down a low level. I think that's the low level teams playing up to top level. And that's just what we love to see in this league. So, and eventually, if you keep playing like that, you'll get rewarded with wins.
No doubt.
Over to Sunday. This was our first 4 game Sunday, or first 4 game day of the entire season. So a lot to break down here. I'll do the same thing that we did Saturday. Starting off with GBS and Loyola, the earliest game, as the Ramblers were hosting, just could not get anything going offensively. Meanwhile, Asher Vanderplug in his senior year sure did find a way. He finds the two should I say, goals with the goalie in net. Eventually, Theo Makroulis finds the empty netter, and GBS takes this one 3-0. Down the line, with three more games, I apologize. My website just happened to crash on me, so I'm just going to keep talking as if I'm talking about anything possible to fill up
Should,
airtime. There we
should we
go.
cut?
Yeah, no, it's all right.
All right.
I got it. We are back. It's
There we
Carmel
go.
and St. Viator. Just past 5 p.m. start time here, and St. Viator brought down the hammer. They had 5 goals in the first, 4 in the second, 3 in the third. Do the math. That is 12 goals, and that is the most we've seen by any team in a single game this season. Still not the highest for a total, because you had the 10-5 between GBN and New Trier earlier
Right.
this season. But
Comes up one short of that.
yeah, but man, 12-2. I don't even I don't even know if I want to look down the score sheet here and see the numbers, but you know what? I'm curious, so why
Leave that
not?
to me.
You know what? I'm gonna leave that to you. Back two games of the Sunday. It was Stevenson and St. Ignatius, GBN and Lake Forest. Between Stevenson and Iggy, Iggy jumps out to a 5-0 lead, and that was enough. Stevenson finds two in the third, but would not matter. The Wolfpack grabbed 2 points there. And then closing out a busy week, Lake Forest with another home game against GBN on the road. Lake Forest finds the first goal from Carter Savage, but from then on, four unanswered from the Spartans. And if I've taken one thing away from this whole week, it's really doesn't matter what the score is after the first period, as after that, it is eventually a win for the Spartans, who were not able to find one in the first period. Dylan, that was a lot. That was a lot for you folks at home. Dylan's going to assist you guys with the details before I lose my breath.
Yeah, starting out with Glenbrook South and Loyola, Thomas Preston gets his third shutout of the SHL season. That is his league leading third shutout, as well as now he's shut out Stevenson, St. Ignatius, and Loyola. Oddly enough, Luke, all of those games were final scores of 3-0. Asher Vanderplug, red hot right now.
Yeah,
That
no
was
kidding.
his seventh game in a row with a goal in SHL play. And in terms of the tournament that GBS played, a weekend or two ago. He's now at 11 straight games with a goal. Not a point, Luke, a goal.
That's really
Just
hard to achieve.
incredible. And especially after coming off of his season ending or, majority season injury last year. You just got to love it from the senior playing in as a forward for the first time in his high school career and making the most of it. Moving along to GBN, I mean, talk about a huge win for them.
Oh,
This is
yeah.
their first win this season above the versus a team above the playoff line, right? So that's something within itself. Jackson Sterner with 2 goals. Victor Kulikov in net, 21 saves against the Lake Forest Scouts. Big game for him. And GBN with the majority in shots as well, 31-22. 5-1 the shots on goal in the third period, Luke. So just one shot against Kulikov for the Lake Forest Scouts in the third period. And then Luke, how can we not expand on this one? 12-2 the final score. I know for a fact that no team has scored 12 goals in the post-COVID era. I don't
Yeah.
know if it's ever happened in SHL history. I'd have to really look back, but back then is before we started using game sheets, so it's a little harder to find the records on that, but maybe I'll get to it. 50 shots on goal for the St. Viator Lions, and I just want to walk you through some of these point totals for these guys. And you know what? Shockingly, Luke, John Colpins had 4 points. You'd think with 12 goals, there'd be a couple guys at that mark. No, he's the only guy with 4 points in this game. We had a lot with three. Giovanni DePinto, Pepe LeBoy, Colton Newhouse, Connor Civictroth, Albert Prizwara. All three of those guys turn in 3 point performances. And, it's just it's hard because you talk about the line of sportsmanship and when do you kind of take your foot off the gas pedal, but at the same time, this is an SHL game. You're playing you want to play the full 51 minutes, and sometimes that'll happen.
Wow. I mean, yeah, and the fact that nobody had more than 4 points is kind of incredible. think that goes to show you how spread out this team is. You look down the line, there were what? Let's see, one, two, three, four. There's only five players without a single point. I mean,
Yeah. I'm
it's
surprised there
pretty
were five,
insane.
to be
Yeah.
honest with you.
And anyway, we are
We do
going
have
to
one
re
more game
yeah, I was
that
gonna
we
say we
need to
got
get
one
together.
more since we're recording today on the 19th. We missed yesterday's game, Stevenson against St. Ignatius. Iggy, after playing Stevenson on Sunday, beating them 5-2, it's usually very hard to beat a team twice in such a short span of time, but they did not mind. Jeremy got the opening goal. It was pretty back and forth in the end, though, a final of 4-2. Iggy outshoots Stevenson 44 to 17, but I've talked about these Stevenson goalies, Weiner, Ali. They've really been impressive. And Ali stops 40 out of 44. Can't earn the win, but man, earns a tip of the cap from me at least. I know it's not the same amount of points, but great performance from him. Nonetheless, it's the Wolfpack with the win.
Yeah, this game was tied 1-1 late in the second period before Edmund Burke scored on the power play to put the Wolfpack in front. Christopher Kelly, two second and third goals of the season in this one as he turns in a 2-point night. And the Wolfpack are just the next team in the SHL to reach 10 wins on the season. As of right now, you've got four teams with 10 wins. That's Lake Forest and St. Viator with 11 each, and St. Ignatius and New Trier with 10 each.
So, looking forward, we're going to get to talk to the starting netminder of those Stevenson Patriots coming up next, Asher Ali, who gets to join just a few hours before Stevenson takes on Carmel on this Wednesday night. Here with the episode 11 special guest, Asher Ali has joined us from the Stevenson Patriots, our first Stevenson representative of this 2025-2026 podcast season. And Asher, how honored do you feel today?
Pleasure to be on here.
Thanks for being on here, Asher. I want to start off with I've known you in the past because when I have done juniors hockey, you've lined juniors hockey and you are a referee. So I kind of want to learn just a very open-ended question. How did you get into it? What do you do now? And what do you look to do in the future with
Uh,
officiating?
so I started off when I was 12 years old. So 4 years ago now. It was just a house league game. They needed a ref. So I went out there and I liked it. So I signed up to ref. They needed refs badly that year. It was like right after COVID. Um, and then I did more games, more games. I got to work with Brett Straley, who is now the assigner of refs in Illinois. Who got me into the USPHL. This is my second year in the USPHL. I do that. I do ACHA. I have a few games coming up this weekend in the ACHA showcase. And then I get a few high school games when I'm not playing.
Yeah, just following up on that, I was on the broadcast for the New Trier Green versus Loyola Gold game, and when Sam Schwartz introduced the officials, he said your name. It's so unique to have to be a referee or linesman in a league game that you also play in that league. What's that kind of like to see the
Um,
SHL from two different
yeah,
vantage points?
yeah. Hockey's a different sport from others. It's so fast. Like I don't have time to process like who the teams are or what's going on. Like I just call it how I see it. So like doing SHL games is I wouldn't say it's normal, but like it's just like any other game. It's just calling the games how they're supposed to be called.
That's a fair answer to say the least. I actually did not even know you did SHL games as well, but I want to talk about ACHA because obviously you're not even out of high school yet. I mean, have you ever? Because let me tell you, we've had young guys who have refed our men's league games, and I got to know one of them because he played for the Crush. He actually did my game last night, and I was giving him some crap. But as you significantly younger than these college players,
Yeah.
do you feel intimidated sometimes? And do you have any stories about kind of getting partially ripped by these older guys because you're a
Um,
younger guy? You're maybe easier to pick on.
n- Not really. That's kind of why I
That's
got this
that's
going a
good
little
then.
bit.
Okay.
That's why I got this going a little bit to kind of look a little older. My first ACHA game actually was DePaul versus St. Norbert, which was a little weird because my head coach, Coach
Yeah,
Dan, coaches
Dan.
St. Norbert, and
Yeah.
assistant Sean coaches DePaul. So it was those two going up against each other. But that game went fine. I had a Lewis game and then three coming up this weekend. So it's good so far. Same thing in USP. I mean, those kids, most of them are older than me as well, but it's been fine so far.
Well, that's good to hear.
Yeah, when you talk speaking about age, when you said you started at age 12, so about 4 years ago, that was a little bit of a jump scare to me. But talking about Stevenson, you are of course now the primary goaltender for the Stevenson Patriots here in the SHL. I just want to ask you, what has the journey been like? You started on varsity as a freshman, now a junior, kind of building your way up to how you are now. And where do you think you've improved the most in terms of your goaltending skills?
Um, that's a tough question. I've worked with Coach Oliver a lot. He's our goalie coach at Stevenson the last 3 years. Um, I will say as a freshman, I guess I feel like I was very like active as a goalie, and now I'm a little bit more composed. Like I don't move as much, like only in the positions I need to be in, which has helped a lot. And also like being on varsity as a freshman was so beneficial. Like just to see the shots, like I don't even know how to put this. Like compared to what I saw then to now, it's like night and day. I'm just
Right.
used to all the shots that.
That's a great point because actually we just had Levi Brown on last week and he said the exact same thing of kind of getting to go up, see the faster shots, get adjusted to it. Because then when you see enough and when
Yeah.
you're truly ready, it's like clockwork. So good to know that's a similar rhythm among goalies. And I want to talk about Stevenson itself and kind of being near the bottom of the SHL standings right now. But you guys have had games in your past where you go up and upset top teams in past years. And I know you've been a part of a couple of those. So I want to ask you, when you guys win those types of games, what changes the most from your usual game to a big upset game like that in the gameplay style? What has to be on point in order to win these games as a team?
Um, I mean, like I see the potential every game we're playing. It's just like small breakdowns that unfortunately they score. Um, but like for example, New Trier last year, we're blocking shots, we're in the right spots at the right times, and we found goals at the right times. And I obviously play good games when we could upset good teams, but it helps when all the players are on the right page. Um, and it carries momentum going forward in other games as well.
Well, Asher, you've been playing under the direction of head coach Dan Wood, and you talked about him, being the head coach of St. Norbert's College and you reffing that game. How has he been beneficial to your career at Stevenson? We had him on the podcast last year and just seems like such a stand-up guy.
Yeah, great guy. Always love seeing him at the rink. Obviously gave me the opportunity as a freshman. It's really shown this year, I think. Like I said earlier, the growth I've had in the last 3 years is unmatched playing varsity as a freshman.
I got one more question for you. I I know you're still a junior, so you got a ways to go. But in the case that we don't have you on next year, I'm kind of curious if you have any future thoughts in mind and what you want to go do, whether that is go referee at the collegiate level, maybe go play at the collegiate level, maybe nothing. What exactly what do you have any sort of path in your tunnel vision right now?
If you were to ask me right now, my number one would probably be reffing. Um, I don't know how much you know about reffing. There's something called the Officials Development Program. Actually, it's called the Advanced Officials Development Program now. It was renamed. Um, that'd be something I'm looking into. They assign the NA and the NA3 and also the USHL. And they put you in a house, you go live there. That'd be pretty cool. And then from there, go as high as possible in officiating. Um, Outside of that, I don't know, go to school somewhere for probably business. I don't know what else I would think of as of right now.
Yeah, no, I mean and you know what? I think many people as a junior in high school aren't exactly sure on what they do yet, what they want to do yet. I think I and some other people just got a little lucky and just were like, I'm doing this or I'm not doing anything in my life, right? So it's like, but yeah, I well said. And that's the last question for me. I think Dylan's probably got one more to close out here, but we appreciate your time, Asher.
Yeah, I do have one more last one from me. You guys, your team, Stevenson, is hosting the SHL Showcase this season after St. Viator did the last 2 years. We talked about the SHL Showcase, or I should say, we're going to talk about the showcase a little later on in this podcast episode. But what are you looking forward to in playing up in Wisconsin against these non-SHL teams? And what are you guys as a team looking to gain out of this?
Yeah, it's always cool to like play different teams that we don't normally see. They're the top teams in the country outside of the SHL, which I think is pretty cool in tier two. Which I think is pretty cool. And it's also like a break from the SHL teams. We see them over and over. And as you know, the league is such a hard league. Like this weekend and the next weekend Thanksgiving tournament, which we host, so we're not in the Loyola tournament. So just I guess we play Vider in between, but the 2 week break from the SHL is a nice little break that we play teams that we don't normally see, and we could kind of refresh and take, I guess, a step forward in the second half of the season.
Very well said, Asher. Thank you so much for your time today here on episode number 11. We appreciate your time. Good luck tonight against Carmel. I know you folks that are seeing this on Thursday. Hopefully, Asher, who is not going tonight, is Ethan because Asher played the last game. But hopefully, Asher and his Pats are able to pull out the W. On behalf of the Pats, good luck to Carmel as well. But hey, we appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
That was Asher Ali, starting netminder for the Stevenson Patriots, getting to join us here in episode number 11 of the Scholastic Sit Down. Not only a goaltender, not his only skates that he wears, he also wears player skates, of course, as a linesman and official in the state of Illinois. So great to have him on and kind of get to see through the lens of a ref. It's really, truly the first ref I think we've talked to on this podcast.
Yeah, I guess you'd be right about that. It's a good pickup by you, Luke.
Over to our outside the SHL segment. I don't like to toot my own horn that often, but the heater's back. It's simply back. The game of the week that I selected outside the SHL was OPRF, who was 7-2 at the time, taking on an unbeaten Hinsdale Central, who was 10-0. This game goes to overtime, and let me break down the scoring for you. No goals in the first. Then Grant Durkin and Henry Crabb score two in the second. That Crabb goal, with 3 seconds left in the second period, takes probably all the air out of the building for OPRF. Going into the intermission, down two, all of a sudden. And this is where it gets bizarre. So Mason Castonguay, if I'm saying that correctly, scores his fourth goal of the season for OPRF to make things 2-1. So the Huskies only trail by one, but time's ticking. They cannot find a goal. We're under a minute left.
Oh my
They
God.
get the goalie out of the net. Liam Maroney has a magic stick. Oliver Puntillo finds him. Maroney shoots and scores with 29 seconds to go against the only unbeaten team left in Illinois West, and I think in any high school league. I want to say I don't think anybody else is unbeaten. So we go to overtime, and this overtime, I need to go see the tape somewhere, but it elapses over 4 minutes and 46 seconds. Literally just a straight marathon. Trevor Moen and Nate Conway, the two goalies, getting tested in the net. In the end, with 14 to go, Maroney, who scored the equalizer, scores the game-winning goal. He scores the game-winning goal, and OPRF ends it. No more undefeated record. Hinsdale Central moves to 10-0-1. I
Wow.
mean, cinema.
Bravo.
It's incredible.
And I believe in North Central, their overtime has a running clock as well. So to get
Really.
the game-winning goal with 14 seconds left, that's huge.
Oh, well, this is West, so
Oh, yes, you're
I
right. You're right.
think okay,
Excuse me.
so I do think it still goes the same. I know North Central added it pretty recently, and yeah,
Yes.
they do running clock, and that kind of threw me off because we were doing the Chicago North New Trier Blue game at Allstate,
Yes,
and
that's
and
right.
you were on PA, I was on play-by-play, and I was like, "What? Dylan, is there a way to stop the clock over there? Is it between the benches? Can we do something?" But no, I learned the hard way. But anyway, so that was our game of the week, and to say the least, absolutely insane. So
Yeah.
I think we've had back-to-back kind of bloopers, man, but
Yeah, let's
this
see
is
if
not
you
that.
can catch some fire here and pick another good one.
So, with that being said, let's look at our standings outside the SHL in the IHSHL North Central Division. Evanston and the BGHW are tied, but the Wildcats have 2 games in hand. Former alma mater of Max Anderson and Wes Anderson, I believe, and they are currently tied
Yep.
for the top. They're outscoring opponents 42-18. BGHW in second, Prep in third, Deerfield in fourth, New Trier Blue in fifth. Over to the CCHL. St. Ignatius, who was undefeated for a long time, lost a few weeks back to Brother Rice. So they were one of the teams I was thinking of that could still be unbeaten, but they're not. They have just one loss. They're still at the top of the CCHL. Bennett's behind them in second, Brother Rice in third. Fenwick is even at 500 in fourth. Providence Catholic is also 4-4, but they have 2 overtime wins, so they've lost 2 points. So Fenwick has 12, PC has 10 to close out the top five. Over in Illinois West, Hinsdale Central, probably a little bummed, but they're still at the top of the standings with 35 points, able to grab a point out of that loss to OPRF, who now moves to 8-2. The Warriors are in second, Maine's in third, Plainfield's in fourth, Glenbard's in fifth, and as we mentioned, Dylan, before the seesaw turns to the other side, OPRF is sixth with a record of 8-2, having beaten the best team in the West. And from then on, the records go 4-7, 4-7, 4-9, 3-8, 3-7, 2-10, 0-9. I, it's
Sorry, how
bizarre.
many teams are in the league as well?
13. So you got the top six who are at point percentages of 767 or above, or sorry, 694 or above. And then you have um 361 points percentage and below from seven beyond.
That is
It's
just
it's
insane.
really just two sides, simply.
Yeah.
It's bizarre. Anyway, over to the Metro Girls High School Hockey League. York is still above the rest. They're 8-1-0. New Trier is 6-2. In second, Fenwick is in third. Lake Forest in fourth. Glenbrook rounding out the top five. It's been just about the same top five the entire time, and that's how it remains. So, looking over to my game of the week, my game of the week selection is going over to the CCHL. And why not? These two teams played to a 4-3 game that St. Ignatius won back on Saturday. They meet again tomorrow, or actually, probably today as you're seeing this, as we took a little bit longer to record this week. No big deal. We haven't missed too much. And St. Ignatius is taking on Bennett Thursday night,
Mhm.
Seven Bridges Olympic Rink. This is going to be a lot of fun. They met on the same exact ice 5 days ago, 4-3. Kennedy Cup final rematch. You name it. I don't see how this game isn't entertaining, Dylan.
Yeah, I think that's a good pick, Luke. There were a lot of candidates this week, but come on, Bennett after going to the UC last year and St. Ignatius as Kennedy Cup champions and playing in a rematch of that 4-3 earlier this season. It's going to be a great game.
I do have an honorable mention because I know I haven't really picked a game from the Metro Girls High School League yet. Then again, a lot of the tiering matchups have been more top versus bottom, and this is kind of one of them. But I want to give a shout out because, of course, a great rivalry is always Loyola and New Trier at the girls' level take on each other Sunday night, 8:50 p.m. at North Shore Ice Arena. So if you want to get out to that one, go ahead. New Trier is heavily favored per se, but then again, rivalry games, you just never know. So we'll
Mm.
see there. But my main game of the week will be St. Ignatius and Bennett Thursday night at Seven Bridges. Let's go into the schedule for this week right away, because why not, right? We have 3 games tonight, so Wednesday. And since you're seeing this Thursday, I think we're just going to we're going to have some fun with this. Maybe we make some predictions. I don't know. See if we got them right. But let's get into it. It's 3 games between 7:10 and 7:40. At 7:10, it is the season series finale between the York Dukes and Glenbrook South Titans over at the GIC. Dylan will be hopping off this podcast and going over to do the game on the South Hockey Network. So
Mhm.
if you always want to ever check the replay, check out the tape, you can always go there. Should be a fun one. And looking over just 10 minutes later, it's another scenario where North and South host on a Wednesday. GBN is hosting New Trier. This was intended to be our SHL game of the week. Unfortunately, due to reasons unknown, actually, on my end, we are not doing that broadcast. So we apologize. We'll make up for it. And GBN still getting involved as they'll be in action a week from now. Or sorry, 8 days from now, should I say. But anyway. Stevenson and Carmel is the closer, and we got to talk to Asher Ali, who is now probably on the road going over to this game. So I don't know, Dylan. Three pretty solid games. What are we expecting?
Yeah, I mean, York and GBS regular season finale, like you said, season series on the line, 1-1. GBS beat them 5-2. York beat GBS 2-0. So yeah, this is going to be really interesting. When GBS lost 2-0, it could have been a lot worse than it was. But the fact that there were only 2 goals allowed, uh, you know, says something about Thomas Preston for sure. Uh, just going to be interesting. New Trier and GBN. This is also their season finale, and just two unbelievable games played between these two sides this year. New Trier won them both 10-5 and then 5-4 in OT. We were watching that on Live Barn. I'm expecting more fireworks between these two. And then look, right? Carmel and Stevenson. This is this is a big game, right? These are two teams that have been struggling this year. Only 3 wins by them combined on the season so far. And for Stevenson, they beat him 4-2 earlier this season. They're looking for the season series victory. And with the year Stevenson's been having, that would be, a huge season series victory to get. So we will see what happens between those two sides.
So it is kind of a bizarre week with that SHL showcase that we were about to talk about. There is one more SHL game on Sunday, if I am reading that correctly, Dylan.
Yes.
So I
As a
am,
matter of fact,
okay.
that's a game of the week.
Oh, yeah, you're right. St.
Yeah.
Viator and St. Ignatius will take on each other 6:30 p.m. It's something I've liked to coin as the Battle of the Saints. I don't know if anybody took that before I made it, but should probably get my patent soon. But anyway, always a good matchup between these two teams, meeting in the state quarterfinals last year, meeting in the SHL quarterfinals last year, and every battle seems to be intense, physical, usually a decent amount of goals, even though everybody's good on every end. And there's a reason this game is game of the week, and you know it had to be featured.
Yeah, and this is one of the surprisingly that this is the first fixture between these two teams on the season so far. So, as far as I'm concerned, they haven't played each other in any exhibitions or non-league games, whether that be tournaments or whatnot. But you know, Ignatius is definitely going to be coming for some revenge. They beat him in both the SHL quarterfinals and the state quarterfinals, and this game, especially this late into the season, has probably been circled on each other's calendar for a long time.
That brings us to our highest scoring game, in which neither of us got any points last week. I was close. I picked a 6-4 game, and most weeks that usually works, right? But
Hmm.
not when St. Viator decides to beat all total game totals with their own team total
Yeah.
with 12. So that was the highest scoring game, 14 goals in that one between Carmel and St. Viator. We got 4 games to choose from here: York and GBS, New Trier GBN, Stevenson and Carmel, and then on Sunday, St. Viator and St. Ignatius. Dylan, and first off, we are being honest. This is before any of the games on Wednesday. None of us are cheating here. Um, you're the guest, so go ahead.
Well, first of all, before I make my pick, I would just like to remind you, Luke, and everyone at home that I'm currently leading
Yes.
3.5 to 1.5.
All right.
And don't forget,
We get
whoever
it
has
right.
the highest score at the end of the season gets a steak dinner paid for by Max Anderson. So really looking forward to that. And by the way, I could tell Max doesn't watch these podcasts because he hasn't texted me about that yet. But
Disappointed.
yeah, I will. Luke, give me Carmel and Stevenson, man. That game is tonight. Um, I think that this is going to be an opportunity see a lot of goals. These are two teams below the playoff line, and both teams are probably gonna have their backup goalies in, and I think we're just gonna, for lack of a better way to put it, just see a lot of frustration come out in this game for both of these sides who, haven't been finding a lot of wins. I think that we're just gonna see a lot of shots on goal and therefore a lot of goals.
Okay. I'm gonna go with the season series that has granted somebody a win, or no, sorry, it's just been the highest scoring game of the week both times that it's been featured. So why not a third, right? Third time's a charm, right? So GBN and New Trier meet for the third time this season. It was 10-5 in the first game, 5-4 in the second game. That is quite literally 24 goals in 2 games. Therefore, 12 a game on average. Other than last week, 12 will practically win you it. So I'm hoping with only 4 games left, kind of banking on a reliable high scoring series like this one. I think I gotta go with the Trevs and Spartans here,
Yeah.
although it's kind of obvious. But
I got a point from that one
yeah,
a few weeks ago.
the
So
OT game, right? Where New Trier
yeah,
came
the
back
OT
and
game,
yeah,
right? So we will see.
yeah, we will see how that goes. And we are not going to break too far into depth about the SHL showcase this weekend, but as you can see now on your screen, it is a ton of games in a small amount of time up in Pleasant Prairie. So if you want to get out there, check out some of the premier high school hockey houses outside the state of Illinois. Go watch some hockey outside the state of Illinois, and we'll
Yes.
definitely recap, point out any key scores we see next week. But that's all for now. And then eventually, as we mentioned, the SHL game of the week, it is St. Viator and St. Ignatius on Sunday before the eventual big game, just 6 days away as you're seeing this episode. So, now with that being said, let's take it into our questions and answers. This has really started to become one of my favorite portions of the podcast because I know we kind of used to try to do this with YouTube comments. It doesn't tend to work. But Instagram story gets a lot more interaction, gets a lot more people to ask the questions that they want to hear instead of us asking the questions you want to hear and make you do the work. So hey, let's do it. Dylan, I think we've got 2 to 3 questions that we're going to be looking at today. You can ask the first one, I'll answer it, then you follow up, and let's do it.
All right, sounds good. We're starting off with Thomas underscore H2186. By my count, that would be Thomas Henriksen.
Presumably.
Yep. He says, just real simple, top three rinks to broadcast at.
That's a great question.
Yeah.
Boy, okay. He didn't specify within the SHL. I'm just going
I
to
guess
assume.
not.
Okay, well then I will go outside of that, but no UC, no Allstate. I think that's pretty fair.
Yeah.
Um, okay, and I'm not going to include the Edge either because it's a favorite of mine, but I'm just not going to include it. Let's go. This is tough. I mean, I probably should have thought of this before. In no specific order, I'm going to start off with just saying I like Northbrook a lot. Obviously, the no netting. I like Nicholas Sportsplex slash Mount Prospect Ice Arena. That's always a nice spot. So there's two right there. And you know what? I might as well stay within the SHL and just fire off what I think would be fifth, third. I think those are just ones where you can see clearly you're high enough to whereas you can identify everybody, but not too high to whereas you got to use freaking binoculars or something. It's uh, it's very nice. There's always a nice little railing up top at those rinks. Northbrook, you get the like box area too. So I think that's why I'd put Northbrook at my personal favorite. And then I'd go fifth, third, and then Nicholas Sportsplex. The view is so important. The space is very important, and that's a recipe for success. I mean, I'm sure if I thought a little bit longer, I could name off plenty more, but those are the first three that come to mind for sure. Great question.
I like it, Luke. I am definitely gonna give an honorable mention here to North Shore Ice Arena, and it used to be my favorite, man.
Yeah,
And
former,
then
right?
they knocked away the platform in between the benches up top to make room for the scoreboard. And look, from a logistics standpoint, the fans in the rink are more important than a potential broadcaster, so I get it, and the scoreboard is sick. If you haven't seen it in person
It's
yet,
pretty
it is
cool. Yeah.
really cool. But it used to be my favorite rink to broadcast at, not anymore. So just wanted to give an honorable mention, as it would have found its way to my top three before this season. So, Luke, I'm also gonna copy your homework here and say Northbrook Sports Center. It's got to be one of the
Yeah.
best. I mean the location where we are in the rink, the view, no netting for the camera is great.
Absolutely.
And I think it looks very professionally done there, and I think it's just all in all one of the best rinks to broadcast at. Up next, I'm going to go ahead and pick Winnetka Ice Arena, and I love the no netting there. You'll see that's a theme with my picks, except for my last one, which does have netting, but I'm getting ahead of myself. We have that wooden broadcast booth. I always love any rink that we have a broadcast booth. It's way more comfortable to broadcast a game from there where you're not going to get any disturbance from the fans. Luke, there's a lot of rinks where you're just kind of in the top row of the
Hey,
bleachers. And
are you guys live?
yeah,
No,
right.
we're having fun. We're practicing.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
if you
so
have done that, I apologize if I offended you, but just letting you know, if you ever see a crew out with cameras and it looks like somebody's talking, they're probably broadcasting or they're recording. And if you do want to ask that question, just I probably would do it in between periods or like intermission.
or ask the technical engineer.
Yeah, that's true.
If you absolutely need to ask the technical engineer, not the guy who's talking into the microphone, okay? Yeah, so just
Yeah, we've had
let's
our
make
fair
that
share of experiences with that, even
yeah.
outside of the SHL as well. It's just a very common occurrence. So if you've done it,
Yeah.
you're not the first. Don't worry.
So, Northbrook Sports Center, Winnetka Ice Arena. And my last pick is probably gonna be one that is not on your radar, Luke, but it's a very personal rink to me, Glenview Community Ice Center. I've broadcasted more games there than any other rink in my career, whether it be at the high school level or any other level. It uh it feels like home. I live in Glenview, so it's just a short drive away, and yes, they renovated it in 2020, and it's not the one that I grew up with during my high school days. But something about walking in there, knowing that you've got like a home game here to broadcast. It's a warm feeling, and it gets it into my top three.
Yeah, one more quick note. That absolutely reminds me to say that West Meadows is my favorite non-SHL arena because I played my hockey there. I coach there right now. Um, you name it. So yeah, it's just
Yeah.
and when I got to do the state quarterfinals last year between New Trier and York, it was sensational. It was a booming atmosphere. Being above all the fans and the audience, getting a high up view, but once again, not too high. It's probably the highest vantage point out of really any of the local rinks, if I'm thinking correctly. But yeah, hey, I like it. Anyway, so we got what, two more?
Two more questions. The next one comes from Drake May Enthusiast One.
Oh, he knows ball. He knows ball, I fear.
All right. And he says, could Nutria Blue beat Nutria Green?
Yeah, first off, great name. I've seen it everywhere on TikTok, on everything. For Dylan, that might not know, or anybody else, Drake May is on the New England Patriots. He's the quarterback that's kind of saving their franchise. Came from
Got
North
it. Yeah,
Carolina.
I
He's
do
been doing
not follow
incredible.
football in the slightest, so I
Yeah,
can't
people
comment.
are going crazy about Drake May. He's one of the favorites to win MVP out of thin air. So yeah, a lot of people love him. But
I would
ooh,
just like to add before we answer this question that Drake May Enthusiast One.
you read the username like a 50-year-old using Instagram for the first time. It's
And
incredible.
I lost it there, but hold on a second. Let's look it up again. Drake May
He's getting a lot
has
of screen time here. I love it.
38 followers.
All right.
And it might be a burner account.
Oh,
So
I think it definitely is a burner account, but at least he picked a good name. Whatever.
yeah.
We'll let it slide. But
All right. So the question is, could New True Blue beat Green?
okay, I'm not gonna say flat out no. I'm gonna give you an open-ended. It's unlikely because I've heard of these stories before. The varsity two plays the varsity one. Usually it's closer than people imagine because you're almost catching the top team off guard. But for the most part, you got to remember the people that are on the top team are on the top team normally because they are more talented, correct? And of course, if you look at New Trier Green, New Trier Blue, that's where it gets dicey because yes, New Trier Green's very good, but New Trier Blue is also very good. So if you look at the rankings, there have been teams who have beaten New Trier before that are below New Trier Blue on, or yes, that are below New Trier Blue on the rankings, which is kind of bizarre because it's a completely different team that's usually younger and smaller and less experienced. But then again, I just don't see it happening between blue and green. But do I think New Trier Blue could beat some other SHL opponents? I think if you give them a couple of games, absolutely. I think they're a very talented team. It's a very talented organization. I don't know if it happens right off the rip though, but I know they have beaten some SHL teams and top 15 teams in the past. So it's not a terrible question. I like it.
Yeah. It's
Anyway,
tough, right? Because, they've played each other before. As a matter of fact,
yeah,
they've
they met in the
played each
state
other
tournament,
in the
what,
state
two
tournament.
years
No,
ago?
the last
That was
two
last year.
years.
That was last. Okay, goodness, great
Last
memory.
year and the year before.
Oh wow.
Obviously, New
Okay.
Trier Green, that was part of their path to their state championships. But, Luke, it's hard to gauge because let's say New Trier Blue was in the SHL and they played each other every three times a year. You're gonna get a New Trier Blue win at some point. It's not gonna be every single game, but because they play each other so rarely, it's hard to imagine New Trier Blue winning any of those games, especially because they're in the state tournament and New Trier Green is looking to win the state tournament every year. So yeah, it's an interesting question, and I would say it's definitely possible. I mean, Luke, I would love to see a New Trier Green versus New Trier Blue O'Grady Cup semifinal or
Yeah,
final.
it's very much
And
possible.
so we'll see what happens. That brings us into our final question. It comes from Evan Lau 2, and he says there's no question here. It's more of a statement, but we can react to the statement. Deerfield could be a top 10 team in the state when hot. What say you, Luke?
Okay. I played Deerfield in my past. They're usually a very stout program, and I don't think it's a ridiculous take at all. Granted, Deerfield is kind of down in the rankings this year. They're ranked number 31 in the My Hockey rankings, and those aren't the official, but they're kind of just general computer algorithm rankings, whatever. Um, you look down the line at some of these scores, and I mean, I could see where he's coming to for a bit. Absolutely. They have some solid wins if you look down the line. They've hung in with some great teams. They've beaten Evanston. They've they were just a few goals away from being New Trier Blue. They only lost to New Trier Green 5-0. They lost to Carmel though 3-0. That's what kind of scares me because I know that's whatever their first game of the season according to my hockey rankings. But Carmel on these rankings is not in the top 10 and they couldn't find a goal against them. I think uh I think over the past few years, I think Deerfield has had just a better offense from playing against them. I know Josh Becker me and him used to, talk to each other, and I'd just basically be like, "Hey, don't torch our team today," because he's pretty good. You got Eli Jacobs. I'm not sure if he's still on the team, but there's a couple of really good offensive Deerfield names that have come out of there. You got Richter, who was a goalie as well. I mean, I think in the past, absolutely. Right now, prove me wrong. I don't think so.
Yeah, when hot, any team could be the top 10 in the state, right?
Yeah.
It's that tough thing to say. I
I'm
mean,
just like I'm waiting on them to hit that peak
right.
of hotness, right?
Yeah. Like if the Blackhawks are hot all year, they'll win the Stanley Cup, but there's highs and lows of the season, right? I mean, as of Deerfield's last six North Central games, they're 2-4 with 5-0 loss to the Rockford Lightning. They lost to the D155 Predators, Notre Dame, or excuse me, they won against Notre Dame, but they lost to New Trier Blue. They looked really promising at the beginning of the season.
Yeah.
Um, especially in the preseason invitational tournament. They were one of the non-SHL teams to make the quarterfinals. But I mean, if they can heat up, we'll see. I think they're in a pretty deep hole on my hockey rankings. Um, but yeah, we will just see.
All right. Well, we thank you guys so much for watching episode number 11 here. Dylan Ward to the side of me. My name is Luke Jordan. We will see you next time.